Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross. I'm so blessed and honored to be here with my... Take two. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I'm your host, Ben Cross. I'm so blessed and honored to be here today with Richard Rudeen, the president of Relocation Today. What's up, Richard? How's it going?
Ben, everybody, good to see you. Ben, thanks so much for having me. Having a great day. It's a sunny 51 today in Minnesota, a long way from the negative 25 when we ice fished a couple weeks ago.
Sunny 51. I mean, the kids out of school yet? Sunny 51.
No, we're going to play outside.
You know, that's summertime. Hit that like button, get in the comments, let us know who you are, where you are, what you're up to. We're going to be talking about fishing. We're going to be talking about leadership. We're going to be having fun today. Just kind of going wherever the wind blows on this balmy pre-summer day here in February. It's about 70 degrees out here in Dallas as well right now, Richard. It's
beautiful.
It's a gorgeous day today. We're actually playing hooky tomorrow, second half of the day, and the team's going to the Fort Worth Music Festival. Yeah.
Great way to play. Great thing to do to play hooky.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Pretty stoked about it right now. Hey, get in there, hit that like button. I want to ask if you could do like the best offsite, thing with your team, what would you want to do with them?
The best offsite. No constraints, no budget.
No constraints, and you don't necessarily have to produce any work product after.
We have an event, actually. We have an employee appreciation week we do every year, and we're going to a Twins game at the end of April. So we are having a team outing. Best one, though, I think it'd have to be in Minnesota, obviously. It'd be like summertime. Let's all get on a giant boat and go to some restaurants on the lake. That'd be for me, though. So I'd really want the team to let me know what we're doing.
Well, isn't that funny, though, as leaders? Like, a lot of what we want to do is kind of what turns into like kind of the culture. Yeah, we do, right? It's like, I think it'd be cool to do this. Everyone's like, all right, if I get a half day, okay, fine, But culture really does kind of like roll down from the leadership. It's funny, we work with a lot of different companies and we get to deal with the CEOs and the presidents of companies, and you see a lot of their preferences imprinting on the folks at the organization, more so than I think sometimes we even realize as leaders.
Classic hit that like button. Example.
Yeah, hit that like button. Get in the comments. Yeah. So tell us about that, because you're at Merck. Are you the president this year?
Yeah.
Wow, you're wearing a lot of hats, Richard.
Just a few.
I want to hear about this, because this is actually a bucket list item for me. I've never been ice fishing, and Mark does it every year, and every year I want to go.
Mark your calendar. You gotta go. You gotta visit Minnesota. If you've never sitting on an ice pail and fished for northern pike, it's exhilarating. But
what's an ice pail?
We glamp. We get in these like trailers that are heated and have TVs and card tables and couches, and it's like 70 degrees. You're in this. We started this. This will be our fourth year. Last year it got rained out. We didn't have enough ice in Minnesota, which was bizarre. We just thought I have two small children, but before they were born, I spent a ton of time on the ice, probably 7 or 8 weekends every single winter. I'd be out there from Thursday till Sunday, sometimes Monday. I'd wake up and then go to the office, but I'd live in these ice castles in the winter, basically, and ice fish. So I thought, I know all these guides. I know the area really well. We're close to Lake Minnetonka. Why don't we try to host an event? So got in touch with some guides. I think we had like 7 or 8 houses our first event. And
describe these for me, because you've used words like ice castle, houses. When I think ice fishing, I lived in Michigan for a few years, and we lived on Walled Lake there outside Detroit. And I'd see people out there on the ice. I even saw a pickup truck on the ice, which blew my mind one time.
Yeah.
But I always think of these like little kind of pop-up tents that people are in. But you're talking about ice castles and houses. What does that like look like for people to have?
So it looks like they're like up to 24, 26 feet long. They're typically 8 feet wide inside. And then they have pop-outs like campers. It's basically like, it looks like a giant camper. It really is a giant camper. And then there's, 10-inch holes in the floor for you to drill holes in. But they've got the one my buddy had forever. It had 2 queen beds in it, like stacked. And then you could lift the one during the day. So you could, sit in the sofas and ice fish during the day. And then it had 2 jackknife sofas and this slide out, and then they'd flip out to beds. So we could pretty comfortably sleep, 4 or 5 guys in there, but we'd be in there. It's kind of a crazy experience too, because a few of the trips we've been on, you drive anywhere from like 3, 4, 5 miles out, straight out into a lake with this trailer.
In the middle of a lake, you're driving into a lake, miles into a lake?
Yeah. There's
on the ice?
Lake of the Woods in northern Minnesota, Canada border. There's Adrian's Road, they call it. I don't know the exact distance, but I think it's like 30 or 40 miles long. And people go out with their 1-ton trucks and their RVs, basically, and they camp out there. And you've got to bring we typically bring a smoker, a grill, all our food and water and, adult beverages for the weekend. And you just camp out there, watch TV, play cards with your buddies.
I gotta ask. I mean, this sounds amazing. I'm waiting for my invite here to that. So, I don't understand though. If you're saying it's 70 degrees inside the ice house, and you're sleeping there, and you're in there, and you're keeping it at that temperature for so long, how does it not like start to defrost and become a problem?
Yeah, there's if you stayed the weekend, when you lift up, you can see there was a house there. Like the ice starts to melt a little bit. So, but some people leave their houses in the same spot all winter. You just come back out, but it's all insulated. They've got the technology pretty dialed in.
Wow. Hey, get in the comments here. I want to know, have you ever ice fished before? Would you try it? What are your thoughts? Is it crazy? I remember walking out on the ice the first time. I'm a big boy, right? Walking out on the ice when it freezes over in like December or something, and you could hear it crack a little bit. And then like a week later, I look out and there's a dang pickup truck out there on the ice, and it blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. We got people checking in here. Get in the comments here. Hit that like button. Sammy, what's up? Super producer Samara here checking in. We got Phoenix in the house over here, the opposite of Minneapolis. Kelly Guerin over here. What's up, Kelly? It's good to see you here. Yeah, get in the comments with questions and comments. Jillian checking in from Glomo HQ. What's up, Jill? Oh, man. It's always got to be one. Our security is awful. What happened? How do we let a Philadelphia Eagle fan in here? Who's running the security at the door here? We let a Dirty Birds fan in here. Hey, Phil. I love Phil. Phil's a great guy. I don't know how.
Ben, what's your football team?
I'm a Cowboys fan, baby. America's
I'm an
American.
I don't know. You were in Michigan for a while. You could have been lying.
Not long. Not that long.
All right.
Not long enough to be. No, I'll be lying. No pun. I actually got into the Lions a little bit. My sister-in-law's husband is a diehard Lions fan from New York for some reason, for no reason. And they're a fun team to watch. What about yourself?
I'm a diehard Vikings fan, unfortunately.
Skull.
All the bad stats, no Super Bowls, all the playoff games were horrible. But
you guys are kind of like the Cowboys. You guys win a lot of games and then just don't do anything with it.
That's where, it's like the dog catches the car and is like, wow, what do I do with it? I'm here. Time to lose. My wife's a huge Lions fan, so I've kind of converted when we're out of the playoffs. I've got a team to root for now.
Nice. Get in the comments here. Let us know your fandom. Rob Zeitz checking in from Wicked Smart, Cambridge, Massachusetts. Nothing wrong with bowling for a company outing or curling if available. Have you ever gone curling?
We did a curling Merc event actually at the like Olympic training facility in Chaska, Minnesota. It's awesome. They have big restaurant, like big bar. It's super challenging. They make it look so like flawless and smooth. We had people falling over, slipping. But we had like coaches teach us how to curl. It was pretty incredible. It was really fun.
Do you have to wear special
I'd do that again.
shoes? Do you have to wear special shoes, or are they like
just regular like athletic, obviously don't wear like heels or flats or whatever, dress shoes that are slick, but you just wear normal shoes and they have these little sliders and then a grippy one and you get down and let it fly. It's super challenging though, but it's a good time.
It looks just like shuffleboard, but on the ice.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. Get in here and let us know what you're thinking about here with the curling. If you've ever done curling, Charles Beatty says, the way Richard explains ice fishing, it sounds awesome. Max Lowy always wanted to try it. It's amazing, fun, different, takes some planning. Yeah.
It does.
What's one thing that if you forget it when you're ice fishing, like it ruins the whole trip?
An auger.
An auger.
You can't get in the ice.
Yeah.
You can't fish.
And do you use an electric auger or do you hit the crank?
So I started ice fishing in 2018 and I started with the crank and I went out a few times and there was like 2 feet of ice. Oh man, it takes forever for one of those hand augers if there's any kind of ice, but the big electric ones just zip right through it. Like
there we go.
Seconds.
Look at this. All right. Jenny Kirby checking in from Madison, Wisconsin. Phil, embarrassed by his fandom. Jack, what are you doing? You're from Canada, Jack. Don't come down here with that Go Bird stuff, okay? Jack, I liked you more when you were talking about the Roman Empire yesterday. Anyway, Jack, just kidding. I always give Jack a hard time here. Hit that like button. We got a bunch of people tuning in. This is awesome. We're going to get into some stuff here. I want to ask you, though, I'm always really curious, just talking about kind of work stuff. There's, we got questions already. All right, fine. You know what? Fine. You want to ask questions? Always leave it to a Philly fan. Phil Leonard says, Richard, what is your biggest challenge for 2025?
This is a great question. I'm going to answer it with a word and then explain it. But I think my biggest challenge is focus. And what I mean by that is we're a growing organization. And there's a lot going on, a lot of change, a lot of opportunity. So when you have all these initiatives that you want to accomplish, things you want to do, if you don't focus and you try to do too many things at once, none of them will get done or none of them will get done well. So for me personally in our business, it's the name of the game is focus, prioritize, and execute. If we can do that, that's the biggest challenge.
It feels like that's the biggest challenge, like on a daily basis too. Sometimes.
I do a lot of time blocking where do you
keep it though? Like when you block it, do you keep it? That's my hard part.
Not always. Or if there's just like time, I'm like, I'm gonna use this space to be creative or think about what I want to do, or just just take a minute and start to be more strategic and plan.
Yeah, time blocking is cool. One of the things that I learned, somebody taught me was, I used to feel really stressed when I was in my 20s and stuff. I'd feel really stressed. Oh my gosh, I have way too many things to do. And a project manager actually pulled me aside and said, hey, write down everything you have to do. And like include bathroom breaks, checking email, lunch, like everything you have to do. And it'd be like 13 things on the list or something, right? And he'd say,
what are you going to do with the other 8 hours of the day?
Yeah. And he said, well, write down next to it, how long it's going to take you, and is it going to take you a quarter of an hour, half an hour, whatever, right? And I'd write it down to 0.25, 0.25, 0.5, 1.0, whatever. And I'd get done with it, and I'd have 5.5 hours of stuff there. And then he said, now prioritize in order of importance. And he's like, okay, and there's your day right there. Do it. Do the hard thing first. Do the most important thing first. And it really helps you not feel overwhelmed by how much stuff is out there.
I feel like the biggest piece of that is it creates. It's less about the plan and it's more about you relieve the mental stress and the thought of like, I've got to do all this. I had a very similar experience in college where I was just like overwhelmed, wasn't sleeping, always stressed. And I literally was like, what's everything I'm worried about? And I wrote it all down and what's everything I have to do? And I wrote it all down and I was like, this is all very achievable stuff. And it was like a just total epiphany and mindset like change of just how to carry yourself.
Yeah, and there's certain things about writing things down where they just tend to happen if you write them down. But I got a question for you. You talk about going to college, and I feel like you've achieved a pretty high level, pretty quickly. Relatively speaking, I deal with professionals all over our industry, And, to achieve the title of president, at your age, I don't know how old your age is, but, it seems like
mystery out there.
Yeah, we'll leave some mystery, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you've done a lot, in a relatively short amount of time. What was that journey like for you? Could you walk us through kind of your story a little bit? I'm always curious how people get where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll kind of jump to college. I grew up in St. Louis Park, right outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Played sports, like that whole thing. Was gonna maybe consider playing baseball in college, and I toured with the local with St. Cloud State University baseball coach with my best friend at the time. I played outfield. He was a catcher. He ended up going Northern. I just said, you know what? There's not any scholarship opportunities. I think I'm just going to be done with sports. And then I went into the field of sports medicine. So I was an athletic trainer throughout my college career, got my EMT, did all that. But that was like the first glimpse for me to a really good leader was our head athletic trainer. And she's still there and just got an award this year for her leadership. But it was Julie Alexander. It run an extremely tight ship, you're expected to be a trainer for D1 and D2 athletes. So you're there before practice at 6 a.m. Wow. You're held accountable. You're doing hospital overnights. You're doing all this stuff. So I was taught this like high level of expectation and showing up for yourself and showing up for other people, more importantly, at a very young age, 19, 20, 21 years old. And it was a super fun, I really had a mini career in athletic training for, 2.5, 3 years during college, and just that leadership and seeing what she did and how she did it. And
dude, right off the bat, when I hear you're a college student showing up to a job at 6 a.m., I'm like, that right there, I'm impressed.
Yeah, we were working like the student athletic trainers. There was only I graduated with 13 people in my field of study at St. Cloud State. I think there were 40 on day one, 18 got approved, and 6 dropped out. So it was an intensive program, but boy, it taught you so much. And people, like you said, when I got out of college and wanted a job, people wanted me to work for them. So kind of did that, graduated, knew I didn't really want to be in that field. It was more continued education. So go for your PA, go for chiropractic. And I'm not a school person. I'm a work person. So during college, I started serving at this sushi restaurant in Minneapolis, and I kept doing that. I think it was probably until 2015, maybe. So I always had a corporate job and a second job.
Oh, really? So you were slinging sushi for a while, huh?
That's right.
I like it.
Moonlight sushi server.
I love servers, bartenders, servers. We talk about that all the time in recruitment. Yeah. We just love that. There's a work ethic. There's a ability to work in high pace, stressful situations where there's a degree of constant urgency going on, where somebody always needs something, and be able to kind of triage that chaos in your mind and figure out where you need to be. I love that.
So I've never thought about this, but I'm actually just thinking you're forced to introduce yourself to 100 people a day.
Wow. Yeah.
Think about it. If you're going up to customer, serving a table, you're interacting with a new person, and not everybody, I don't know if anybody's taking a walk around a Walmart, but not everybody is as fun and pleasurable to hang out with as Ben Cross. So did that for a while. So every corporate job I took, I got recruited out of the restaurant to work for this healthcare startup, but it was for a super successful entrepreneur that started, it's this Minnesota-based furniture company, Becker Furniture World. They have, 20 stores. It's a multi-million-dollar company. They have a 250,000 square foot. So Doug was 75 when I started to work for him, but he was working in the health company every single day. So it was health and wellness. He kind of started that from his family, and then he did this for all of his employees. So I did corporate wellness programs, pain management, worked with doctors and chiropractors for pain management. So, but I got to work with him every day, and it was a master class in how to deal with people, how to do sales, how to do marketing, how to get in front of people, how to network, and the biggest thing that helped me there is I learned finance and reporting. So he gave me access to his CFO at Becker, and I was able to build out kind of all of our financial reporting and inventory tracking. And I'll never forget, I handed him our first sales report, and he goes, "How'd you do this?" I was like, "I built it." He goes, "How?" And I'm like, I don't know. I asked your CFO what to do, and she told me, and I did it. And he was like, "You're really good at this."
Yeah.
So I worked there for about a year, got recruited out of there to go work for a joint venture with Wells Fargo. I really wanted to get into real estate and mortgage, and I figured it was more real estate than mortgage. I figured if you want to buy real estate, you probably have to learn how to borrow money. So that was my first corporate job, and great advice from some of my friends that knew me really well. One of them, Brian Burns, I'm still close with. He's like, man, get a corporate job anywhere. Just work hard, put your nose down, and you'll quickly kind of rise up, keep doing more. I know who you are and what you want to do. And if you do that, you'll be successful. Worked there for a year and then got recruited at Relocation today. And I kept that same mentality, and I have that same mentality today of just continuing to work hard, do more, figure it out, and keep, showing up every day.
I mean, showing up. I mean, what do they say? Showing up's, more than
whatever, 80% of the
80%. Yeah. And it's so true. Showing up consistently and showing up the right way. When did you join Relocation today?
So it was 2014. I actually just celebrated my 11th anniversary on Monday.
Nice. Congratulations. I got a couple questions here, and I want to get into a little bit about what you're doing now, but I've got some questions. Hit that like button, get in the comments with your questions. Shout out to everyone out there who's been commenting. Sandra Clary, what's up, Sandra? Good to see you. Sandra's got a couple of questions here. One, she says, what leadership qualities made that impact on your 18, 19-year-old self?
What leadership qualities made that impact? Well, I think part of it, so my story was I needed to figure it out. I didn't have a fallback. I could have went home, I guess, but I didn't want to. So I was like, I have to figure a way out of this. So I feel like it was more that mindset of just like, I have an inability to lose. So it's just like, staying after that.
You said something that I want to touch on, right? Like the going home thing can be a trap. Like I went home twice. After college, I stayed in upstate New York. I worked. I got laid off. I didn't know what to do. I knew I didn't want to be upstate New York. I didn't want to be working in bars and clubs anymore. And I wanted to get a real job, but I didn't know what that was going to be. Yeah. And I called my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and I said, hey, do you want to move to Dallas with me and move into my mom's house? And we did that. And
she said, I've been waiting for this call.
She literally cried going through Arkansas. She broke down and crying, and I don't think she stopped crying for like a month and a half. And then we finally moved out of there and got our own place because it was untenable to be there in my. Yeah.
How long did you stay there, and what
Yeah, probably 2 months. We probably moved in right around her birthday, which is February 1st, and I got my job middle of March, and then I think as soon as we got like 2 paychecks, we were out of there. So probably like mid-April. So probably 2.5 months, but it felt like 6 months.
So I have a funny story. I also moved home I almost like blocked this out. I moved. Yeah. I love you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, right.
But I almost blocked this out. My wife and I were trying to buy our first house. We were dating at the time. We were trying to buy our first townhome or condo or whatever we were going to buy. And we lost out on like 6 properties. This is in 2013. And they're like, well, why don't you just live with us? We do have an extra room. At the time, they always took care of my like aunts and my grandma, and somebody was always there. So I'm like, sure. So we lived there for a month, and we were driving somewhere, and we passed an apartment and just pulled in.
Yeah.
And we're like, do you have any apartments available?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we did. And we went to IKEA and we figured it out and furnished the whole thing. And then we ended up moving 4 or 5 months later to Florida. But we landed with my mom twice, and it lasted about a month or two. And it might, you know what? And it's funny because it didn't last very long because I had my wife with me, or my girlfriend with me. But I feel like it can be a trap, like because you get in there and you're like, okay, I'm saving money, I'm figuring things out, and I like what you were saying before about like you just didn't feel like that was an option for you. You didn't want to go home, and I sometimes I worry because more and more people are living at home, and I know it's because housing is very expensive and the job market is different maybe than it was when we were coming out.
See, I know I'm very lucky, and luck goes into a lot of this. But those are just I believe those are ways out. Those are excuses. And I'm sure some people aren't going to like to hear that. And it's so hard. And I had it hard. You had it hard.
Yeah.
Like you find a way if you want to.
Well, and I remember being up at college and not wanting to go home and staying up there for the summer. And I thought I was going to be able to throw, promote clubs and do things I did during the school year, but everybody had gone away. All the customers had left, and I ended up, the bar closed the club closed like two weeks after school started. Now I'm up there in the summer with no job, trying to figure it out. And I didn't have a place to stay. I was sleeping on my friend's floor, and I've had to figure it out. Like, to your point, I went to the mall and I got a job, and that sucked. And I kept looking for better and better and better things, right?
That's right.
And so necessity is the mother of invention. But sometimes we remove that necessity from our life, and yet that's the thing that's going to propel us to be who we can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, super interesting. Get in the comments here. I want to know what y'all think about some of this stuff. And before we move on to what you're doing now here, Sandra's got one more question pertaining to the real topic here. What or who is the official determinant of when the ice in the forecast are sufficient for driving on the ice?
Has anybody ever seen Dumb and Dumber?
It's been a while.
It's just so it's just people that go on the lake. You test the ice. I'm a late.
Is there a town village idiot that goes out on the ice first?
Basically. So it's funny. I typically I'll walk out on the ice when I see other people walking out on the ice, and then you check it. So 4 inches to 5 or 6 inches, you start to feel safe walking on it, but there's still unsafe spots. So you have to kind of know the lake and if there's a hot spring or if there's an area.
I was going to say, what would create an unsafe spot? Wouldn't all the water be the same temperature?
No, all these different lakes, and Minnetonka probably has 25 hot springs. So there are areas you don't want to walk because it might go from 2.5 feet of ice down to 3 inches because the water. But so you really have to know what.
Do they mark that or something when you're driving out there? And
well, the way to find out where it's marked is all these lake finder maps that only fishermen have.
Okay.
But yeah, then eventually people will go, oh, there's 8 inches and 10 inches and 14 inches. But you can drive like a car on, 10 inches of ice, which is crazy. And a truck in one of those big houses, you need 14, 16 inches. But usually there's enough snow, and then you start to see the road because all the cars go to the kind of the same spots. That's when I go out.
Okay. When there's already.
I'm holding off. Yeah. I'm not driving out unless I'm seeing everybody else.
You're not a trailblazer.
But there is no regulation or ice expert at all. It's the wild, wild west.
This is great. Jack saying, thanks for being a trainer. Y'all make athletic teams run well. Jack played football.
Nice.
So you end up joining Relocation today in 2014.
Yep.
And I'm really curious, you left the real estate mortgage industry to join us. If you recall, what attracted you to this industry, and was it what you thought it was going to be? So,
full disclaimer, and it's weird because I'm the president of this company. I didn't know this relocation industry existed.
Yeah.
Jill Rush, who I know you know, calls me, back searched my resume on Indeed and said, hey, we're hiring. We're a relocation company. You probably don't know what that is. And I said, I have no idea what that is. But I'm I was actively looking for a new job. The joint venture was going away, and my boss was helping me trying to find a job within Wells Fargo so I interviewed, and it was Mary Lou, our co-founder, my boss at the time, Sarah Lindstrom, Jill Rush was obviously in there. Melanie Robertson, I think, was in the interview. And I can't remember if Holly Loveseth, our other co-founder, was in the room. And I really liked all of them. And I was like, what do you do? It took me a long time to figure out what we did. My first 6 months, just because of my personality and who I am, I didn't have to do this. I wasn't told to do this. But I met with everybody in the company multiple times and just asked, hey, what do you do here? Right. I have no idea what this industry is. So I didn't have expectations, but if I did, I think I know, and I personally believe this industry is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
The people, the network, the connections, the complexity. It's an incredible industry to be in. And if I didn't think that, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Yeah. The variety of stuff that you get to work on and the people is really a cool part. But the industry has faced some challenges. I mean, since you entered into it in 2014 to where we are today in 2025, I mean, you could argue we're going through one of the most tenuous, times in our industry. I mean, I wasn't around in '08, right? So I can't really speak to that because people talk about that. I wasn't around in the Y2K.com bubble, 2000. But between COVID and then, I mean, of course, a couple of years after COVID were great years for our industry. Yep. But now we're kind of going through, maybe a 2-year period where things have just been really slow and tough, and you wonder, is it ever going to come back? And a lot of people say it's not going to come back the way it was. But then some other people are saying, and I'm one of these people also, that thinks this is a lot of opportunity out there. We just have to look at things a little differently, and maybe we have to reevaluate our revenue models. But I mean, what are your thoughts on kind of where we're at now 11 years into this?
I'm on your side of the fence. I think you have to relook. You've got to get in a different seat and get a different perspective. That was my lesson for 2024. Like I started to take this role on in January of last year. And my lesson for the year is the view looks different from every seat. So you have to put yourself in a different seat and figure out a different way to do things. And that's what we've been doing. And we'll continue to do that. And we're finding a lot of success. I know it's harder to do that the bigger you get. So for you, Ben, and for me, we're small companies. It's easy for us to do that. You can roll something, and we still have challenges, but it's much easier to maneuver your revenue model, your business model, what you're doing, how you're making connections, how you're networking and growing. And I think a lot of people, and that's what makes you so successful. You're constantly doing that. You're constantly learning. You're constantly networking. You're growing. You're engaging with your community. So I agree with, will it be what it was for, these big RMCs and all these suppliers that had all this business 2-3 years ago? No, I don't think it's going to be there, but I think there's probably a way to figure it out and find success. Not everybody's going to do that, though. We know that. And that might be a number of reasons that's going to happen. But I will say, in my 11 years in this industry, there seems to be like a relatively big change every few years. Yeah. And early on, I was like, I cannot remember. Maybe it was like the taxability of the household goods. I was like, my reaction was like, oh, all these clients are going to leave. They are not going to. We don't have one client. Like nobody did anything. It was like the sky's fault. And that's happened a number of times. It maybe is a little more real with. It was more real with COVID.
No, I mean, you're spot on, right? 2017 was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, right? So you're absolutely spot on there. And then 2020 was COVID. And now here we are, you could argue maybe 23, maybe, kind of the bottom fell out of this thing.
24 was NAR.
Interest rates at 23, 24 NAR. I mean, yeah, there definitely is. Phil's saying you have to learn how to pivot and making sure you have your ear to the ground in this industry. So when you think about things like strategy, right, we're all kind of pretty attuned to what's going on, what the headwinds might be. But in your seat, you're charged with having to figure it out. So what is that process like for you when you think about, okay, how are we going to figure this out? What do you do to figure it out?
Well, I think that first and foremost, and I think this is one thing I'll say our industry does, and a lot of our leaders in this industry do significantly well, is focus on our people. I'd say by and large, there's some holes there, obviously, but focus on your team, focus on your people, make sure you've got a solid foundation and base, because if you try to do anything without that in place, it's going to be rough. So I think focusing on your people is number one. And this is almost the exact message I share with our team is let's focus on our people. Let's focus on our team. Let's focus also next in that step is let's focus on our current customer base, our current clients, make sure each employee we're relocating or intern we touch or, whatever the program is, let's make sure we're doing all we can. All our processes, everything's right. Once that stuff's figured out, then I look at it from a business standpoint, right? Like what makes sense to do? What can we adjust? There's so many options and levers and things you can do in this industry with your pricing model or your revenue model or what you're doing with clients. It's time to roll up your sleeves and figure that out. So it's going through that process and figuring out what works.
Yeah. In fact, actually, you've put a top 5 together for us today. That's a really good segue into that. Here we are. It's not January 1, but it is the middle of Q1. And I know a lot of folks are still in this kind of planning and phase. So you put together a top 5, which I think is kind of cool. Top 5 ways to set up for success year round. And I want to go through it. You ready, Richard? Let's go
ready.
here. So you gave me a top 5. We're going to count down. Number 5.
Oh, we're counting down. All right.
We're counting down.
I don't know if it works backwards.
Well, it's gonna have to. You're gonna have to adapt. Resilience.
All right. Check in. So if you're planning for the year that we're starting at the end, you've got to check in along the way. So you might find yourself falling off track. So whatever that means for you, and whatever way you can find that check in, whether it's monthly, quarterly, weekly, biannually, whatever it is, you have to check in and pull yourself back and not roll around to December 31st and go, what did I do? Or what didn't I do?
You know what, Richard? You're totally right. I'm looking at these right here, and we put them in reverse order, but they really need to be in the order you gave them to us here.
I can do it.
No, you know what? Let's it's not like a crazy Tarantino movie. We're gonna actually go and we're gonna do number 1. First things first. How do you start?
Big ass calendar.
What is the big ass calendar?
So have you heard NetJets or Zika Water or Spanx? Yep. So
I'm wearing them now.
You're wearing them now. Keep you slim, baby. So Jesse Itzler's this entrepreneur. I've listened to a number of his books, including one that got me through my first marathon called Living with the SEAL. He had a Navy SEAL live with him for a month, but Jesse does this big ass calendar every year. Now I don't have the calendar. I didn't spend the $200 or whatever it is and take the course. But the concept is simple. You grab a calendar with the full year. I kind of thought it was obnoxious because it's probably like, it's like 7 or 8 feet wide. And
it's massive.
It's massive.
I got one at a talk. He came and talked to the entrepreneur group, and we were
amazing.
giving them,
Yeah. So it's that exercise. It's going through your calendar and looking at what events do I want to go to? What personal things do I have on here? When am I, and this is a silly one, but important to me, what days are my kids out of school? And I'm just going to take the day off and play with my kids. I put that on my calendar. So every month I put, and then on the calendar I have more of a flex space for that, where it's like on my list of to-dos on my calendar, and it's in my office at Relocation Day. I have date night with my wife every single month. So I remind myself every single month, hey, if you want to stay married, make an effort. And then I have every quarter, try to take a trip, try to do an overnight with my wife. And then it's backing into those, into your leading goals. If you want the result to happen, what things, if you did every single day, week, month for the year, the goal you set out, the big goal you want to achieve happens. And then how do you make sure you have fun, and how do you engage, and how do you make sure, Ben's on your calendar to check in with, or your friends or your network? So
we're getting ahead. We're getting ahead here.
Right,
Number 2, I'm being a poor moderator because I'm not giving you. I need to tee these up better. Number 2, prioritize and schedule. You talk about that a little bit. What I liked about what you said there is you put in there the days your kids have off first.
Yeah.
You put in there your date nights, and then you put in the other stuff around it. And
usually
that
it's the opposite.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me though of the whole Big Rocks, Little Rocks thing that I think it was John Maxwell maybe.
Golf balls, then rocks. Is it full?
Right. And so it's like when you put those most important things on the calendar first and you build around that versus putting work in there and then trying to slot in, your spouse or your kids or whatever around it. I think that's really cool to prioritize.
Well, I made the conscious decision. I think it was, I believe it was BAM that was over it butted up to Valentine's Day Friday. And I was like, oh, Lauren wins this year.
Yeah.
I don't want to be traveling, have her with the kids. I'll come home. I'll just decide to prioritize that this year. And I would have loved to attend that event, but I made that choice. I prioritized what I was going to do there.
Yeah. This one's interesting. Number 3. What do you mean by this?
Find places to focus. I don't remember what I meant when I wrote this, but I could come up with a few. So I want to say it probably was it almost probably goes back to the other points of prioritize, find that focus. Or the other thing I do really well is I put myself in obscure locations and places that are out of my day to day to spend time to focus. So there's a coffee shop I go to in Excelsior right by the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go there in the spring or summer, I'll take a walk down to the dock and I'll sit there and I'll think and I'll start to, just find that place to focus and think about what I'm going to do and what I'm doing. And I do that. I move in my own office. Like I don't sit in my office all that often. I'll go in the conference room or a huddle room or other people's offices or somewhere to work. And that's almost like, it's almost like a distracting way to focus for me.
No, it's, you're saying that and it's making a lot of sense for me because I do the same thing. Well, my team will tell you I'm constantly sitting in their office. I put a comfy chair in each one of their offices so for me to sit in because it makes me think differently when I'm sitting in someone else's office or a different space, or I'll sit at the conference room table like you were saying before. And I find that when I travel, I think differently.
100%.
And I never identified why that is until you just said like weird and obscure places. And I'm going to start being more intentional, I think, about doing that.
Yeah. They put a new boardwalk on the lake. It's like 5 extra minutes for me to go that way to work. And I didn't do it enough last year, but I went out of my way to take the detour to work, and I'd park and I leave my phone in my car, and it's like a 15-minute walk on the water, but I just will go there and I'm like, what do I want to focus on? What do I want to do? What are my next moves?
This is really interesting because our core values are truth, love, and fun at Glomo.
Oh, cool.
And you put plan fun things to do. Why is this an important part of setting yourself up for success year round?
Because if you do not plan it, it will not happen. I had to be super. I started doing this last year. I found myself so busy, and I know I'm not alone in that. It's everybody I know. And if you do not plan, things will not happen. So it is planning. Hey, we're going to go on this ice fishing trip, which I usually go on every year. We did not do this year.
Okay.
Poor kidding.
So getting ice fishing at Merck's just not enough. You need to actually go out on that.
I need the full experience. Bring me 5 miles out for the weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. With my 5 buddies and.
Yeah. You said busy, and we're all so busy these days. Right. And it's so funny because we have more technology, more automation, more, what used to take days to send correspondence in the mail. We now just fire off emails left and right. And yet we're more busy than ever when we should have more free time than ever. Although you could argue we just fill up our free time with nonsense, scrolling the internet or whatever. But I remember Bill Gates was on a panel with Warren Buffett, and I always find these two so funny. And Bill Gates said, busy is the new stupid. And I'm like, wow, that's a provocative, statement.
Yeah.
And I love it too. And then he turned to Warren and he's like, Warren, give me your little black book calendar. And Warren takes it out and he hands it to Bill. And Bill's like, I'm not going to show you what's on Warren's calendar, but there are whole days and pages in this calendar with nothing on it. There's one thing right here. And then there's empty. And I'm like, this is Warren Buffett, the most powerful person in business. And he has nothing on his calendar. Okay. So like, what are you doing filling it up? Yeah, kind of. Now it's easy for us to say because we sit at the top of our organizations and we determine what we're going to do with our time and we have the ability to say no to certain things and obviously I always have to be careful judging others who are in different circumstances by my situation, but I just think it's a real paradigm shift mentally to think about what we allow to control our time.
I want to add one thing. I haven't done this since I took a week off for my honeymoon and I didn't work. I checked my email for 5 minutes every morning. This was 10 years ago. I think I started this last year. Up until last year, I'd take a vacation, but I'd be like, I'm going to work on Wednesday. And then you're gone for a day. It's distracting. It's distracting the day before and the day after. You might work more on the days you're not working. So now I intentionally take the full, we go to Northern Michigan every summer. I take that full week off. Again, I might check my emails 10 minutes a day, and I give myself the space to do that, but that's all I do unless there's whatever's going on. But that's pretty rare that you can't take that space. So that's been super fulfilling and rewarding in a different way and I know I'm not alone in that. I see so many people take time off and they're not taking time off.
Yeah, we're all guilty of that. I know I am. Check in. You mentioned this before, but it makes more sense now as number 5. Yeah.
Now
Very
I know.
cool.
If I come again, I'll flip them, and you'll be.
Yes, we're definitely going to do. This is a great practice run here. We got an interesting comment that came in while we were doing all that, and I want to read it because I think it's interesting. It's kind of long here,
Is that
but I'm
Scott?
gonna it's Scott,
Yep.
and I'm gonna read it because I think I think it's important. I think it's kind of accurate. Decisions on mobility are often made from folks on the corporate side who don't handle mobility.
Yep.
It appears we are going through a stretch where corporate mobility folks are not as respected. They are getting let go, and lump sum programs are taking over. My opinion, industry needs to build up the corporate relo people. These folks get respected in their buildings, and lump sums go away, and volume increases. I guess saying if these folks get respected. If this does not happen, then we are going to see more and more lump sum programs. What do you think about that statement?
So there's a few things that stand out. I think everybody sees this to some degree at corporations where a mobility person comes in, they have grand plans, they want to get things done, and they're the leader of mobility, but they're not the decision maker. And Scott, you're exactly right. And by and large, that's not always the case, but I agree with it. I think what I've seen, it's almost been like a subtle undertone of trying to get mobility professionals equipped with the tools to almost sell themselves and what mobility is to the upward leaders of corporations. And it's a real challenge because it's a new skill set mobility's having to build and able to go execute on that. Charles Amino came to Merck and was on a panel, and one of his leaders asked him about how many people was on his team and how many relocations he did. And they're like, your team's only that big? And he was like, well, yeah, I have a tax team that would be the equivalent of this many more employees. And I have a relocation partner that would be this many employees. And I have like all these things. So it seems like a team that's only this big, but triple or quadruple it because we're hiring all these services out. And I think when mobility leaders can start to, which is, again, that's unfortunate that they've got to go that route. And it's also unfortunate because these corporations who have these, like Ben, you shared your values are truth, love, and fun. Well, if there are parts of your business that don't align with that, they're not part of your business. That's not who you are. And there's so many corporations that say, we care deeply about our people. They've got these core values and these things they say, except for relocation, where they'll figure it out. And
we care about our people, except when they relocate.
Except for when we don't. Exactly. And it's so interesting. And it's such a small, it actually feels like the really easy right thing to do because relocation today is such a small population of maybe their employee population. So it feels like an easy one to say like, oh yeah, why wouldn't I take care of the people that are uprooting their lives and moving across the country? It's only a small percentage of my people. But it's the opposite case where the spend is big and they ultimately don't want to make the investment. And that's more important than who they are as an organization. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I like what you said about building them up and equipping them with either it's the data or maybe it's the skills they need to really stand out and be those strategic leaders. I also think there's a little bit of a problem because there's not a natural career path in global mobility on the corporate side. People don't come out of this job function typically and go on to lead a benefits, team or to be the CHRO, it's just not one of the more traditional areas. So I wonder sometimes about where it sits, but I think that we do have to somehow upskill them with these other professional skills. Like, I don't think it's just enough to make them, super intelligent about moving in logistics, immigration, and tax. We almost need to also teach them, how to influence the organization,
Absolutely.
how to present data, things like that, just to make them like as high quality professionals as possible so that they can be advocates for spend and experience.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Really interesting. And Phil says he'd like to continue the conversation. I think it would make actually a really good show to do. So if you guys want to dig into that and kind of propose something, I'd be.
Do you ever have multiple guests? You could have a panel, Love and Relo.
Back in the day, we used to. Yeah, it gets a little unruly, but yeah, as long as we limit the drinking, it's fine. Jack says mobility specialists, professionals should aspire to become CHROs. I think they aspire, Jack. I just don't think that other people in the organization think that they're as qualified maybe as somebody that came from, talent acquisition or learning and development or some of these more typical traditional kind of things. You can aspire to be a lot of things, but you also have to have the skill sets to do it. Jack saying, what would be your thoughts of regional? This is a good question for a regional relocation council president, Jack, about adding Dale Carnegie courses to their repertoire so they can successfully be empowered to sell themselves.
I love this idea. I think we're always, I've been a part of Merck for a long time. We want to give people what they want, and if that's a skill set, and I think that would probably be good for any position. Really, everyone's in sales. If you're
everyone that attends will benefit from that, not just
absolutely.
The corporate folks.
Even the salespeople will benefit because a lot of people are bad at sales who are in sales. I love that idea. That's a great idea.
Look at Jack coming in with the good ideas. Jack, this is back-to-back days now. You're going to develop a reputation with coming up with good ideas. Scott saying, yeah, we need to help the corporate real people on how to influence the organization. Rob saying, feels like it can be tough for mobility leaders to sell the value. Yeah, because they need to sell it. That's the thing, right? We talk about sales.
Yeah.
They need to sell it. Yeah, this is great. And then last one here, Scott is just saying, true, but mobility people need to have eyes in the back of their heads because some relo vendor is working around them and telling their leaders how they are not needed. Everything can be outsourced. The industry needs to be better. Wow. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, it's interesting, because corporate mobility function, at one time back in the day, it was a big old team of in-house people, and corporations have been urged to cut FTEs, full-time employees, so much, and to outsource these programs that are non-core to their business, like you said before, right? And that is the whole managed relocation industry kind of exists on that. But the slippery slope is now that as they become smaller and smaller, they may not be able to advocate for spend at all. And then it becomes we're back to the days of signing bonuses and just, things like that. So it's really
if you remove that link, that becomes now the RMC isn't going to be the one. They're not going to be able to, if the internal mobility person can, the RMC certainly can, I would imagine.
Yeah. Super interesting. Hey, Richard, you want to play a game with me?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do it. Y'all know what time it is. It is overrated, underrated. It's the game you've all been waiting for. Hit that like button. Get in the comments. Warm those fingers up. We're going to play a game. Richard, this is a very simple game. Do you know how to play?
I believe I do.
All right, that's what everybody thinks. I'm going to give you one topic, and you are going to tell me if it is either overrated or underrated. Those are your only two options. Don't get cute. I will tell you if you are correct or not.
Oh, all right.
Furthermore, we will be keeping score. All right, let's have fun here. Get in the comments. Let Richard know if he is right or wrong. We're so nice for like 50 minutes of the show, and then the knives come out at the end. This is great. All right, let's go. Overrated, underrated. The first one up. Working from the office. Overrated or underrated?
I'm going to say this isn't return to office. It's just working from the office. I'm saying underrated.
Underrated. Is this part of your new and obscure places to think strategy?
Yes, I gotta move. If I gotta get out of the house. It's funny because a buddy told me for years, like during COVID, he's like, "Dude, you gotta get to the office." And I was like, "I'm not going to the office." Now I can't not go in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it found you, didn't it? Yeah. I mean, hey, I love working from the office. We've been having a couple of really good days here. Which is.
Are you all in the office every day?
We are all in the office every day now.
Awesome.
It wasn't like that. I mean, we obviously started during COVID, late 2020. We didn't even have an office. It was just me. And then my first employee here was remote. My second employee was remote. A lot of them were remote. And then we started to build a bit of a nucleus here in Dallas. And then some folks just attrit. And then one person relocated. Jillian on the team came down from Connecticut. And now we are all here in Dallas. And I think I want to keep it that way. Now, there's certain people out there that I'd love to hire and they live somewhere else, but I just love the vibe we have here, and it's really hard to make TikToks when people aren't together. So there's a lot of trade-offs there. All right, you got 1 point, Richard. This is exciting here. Rob saying underrated, but remote work is also underrated. Listen, Rob, that wasn't the topic.
Rob, don't be distracting people.
All right, awesome. Next one up. Networking, overrated or underrated?
Underrated. Gotta do it. I think so many people, particularly when they like climb their career path and they accelerate, the higher up you get, the less you network. And it has such a polar opposite effect of what you should be doing and how it would impact your business.
Yeah, I'm guilty of this. I mean,
I am too.
I don't get out as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Golly, I never thought I'd be bad at this. This is like my thing.
Well, you're doing it from you do it in different ways, and I think that's what's important too. Is networking doesn't mean I've got to go meet new people. I've got to network. Write down all the people you know that you've worked with, that you've done stuff with. Check in. How they doing? What's going on? What's new? What changes have they had? How is their business going? Maybe there's opportunity, and if you don't do those things, you're not going to find them.
I love that check-in thing, because how often do we just hit somebody up as salespeople, like when we need something from them? Or how often do we just hit people up as leaders when we need to correct something? And like, we should be hitting people up twice as often just because we saw something funny and want to share it, or thinking of you, or happy birthday, or whatever. I just, I think there needs to be a 2-to-1 ratio of just saying what's up to like asking.
I'm going to steal your thunder here, but Jack's got a really good question. When you're networking, what's your go-to conversation starter? Ben, you go.
I'll tell you the worst one.
All right.
The worst one is, when'd you get in?
Oh, yeah.
I hate that one so bad. Like at conferences, that's the go-to. Oh man, when'd you get in?
I'll give you a worse one. I come up to you to shake your hand and introduce myself, and I don't, and I do this because I'm looking at your name badge. Hi, Richard Rudeen. Nice to meet you. What's your name? Look me in the eye. Yep. Grab somebody's hand, shake them. That's actually the best one. Shake somebody. Yeah, what's your name? Yeah. Where do you work?
Who are you with? That's the second worst one that goes to your point. So who are you with?
Mine is. I'd have to really think about it, but what comes to top of mine is, what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, that's a nice one. I like this. I like so what's new in your world?
Oh, they're actually very similar to that. I was taught at some HR event I go to. What's something exciting you're working on right now? Because people, if they're going to share something they're excited about, they're going to get excited about it.
Yeah. That's
very similar to the like, what's new in your world?
Yeah. I do think an underrated one is how's biz. I think that's an underrated one because it will get people talking. It's kind of cliche, which is why I don't like it, but I also think it gets people talking. We got people chiming in here. This is great. Ben Heller says, I hate the when did you get in question so much. Ben, I hope I see you at a conference, and I hope you ask me when I got in.
It's the only thing I'm ever going to ask him.
I'm going to always ask Ben when he got in. So the first time I met Ben Heller, you know what my networking intro was to Ben?
What?
He reminds me of this. It was such a terrible thing to do. So I walk up to him. I think I was hanging out with Thomas Bailey, circa 2019, let's say 2018. Ben knows where I'm going to go with this. I walk up to him, and I was admiring his sport coat. First of all, I just want to be clear about where I was coming from. It's coming from a place of love. I walk up to him. I don't even think I said hello. I open the pocket on the inside to see what kind of coat, like who makes this sport coat. Oh. Like what brand it was. Like I'm like I don't know what possessed me to just walk up to a man I've never met before and just peek in and like see what label. Yeah, it was tacky. I'm really sorry, Ben, but he never forgot it. He never let me forget it. And so a lot of times I like to go up and compliment something somebody's wearing. That's like, those are that's a nice sport coat.
Yep.
I did that with my friend Brad Hamlin at REI. He was wearing some pants, nice pants. He was wearing like some plaid looking green pants at my first Detroit regional relocation. Nice pants, bro. Yeah, but it worked, and he never.
It makes sense in this context.
Yeah, but you hit somebody with nice pants, they'll never forget you because you're not a when did you get in person. Yeah, this is great. People are enjoying the what not to do's. Look at this. It's a good looking interior of your sport coat you got there. It's all good, Ben. Yeah, love you too, buddy. This is great. All right, networking can be just saying how are things or happy birthday, for sure.
Absolutely.
Love it. All right, let's get into the next one here. Networking, yes, that's 2 points. The platinum rule.
Ooh, this is overrated, underrated.
Yep, overrated, underrated.
This is underrated. I think everybody knows the platinum rule, right?
I don't know it.
So the golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated.
Yep.
So the platinum rule is treat others how they want to be treated. Ooh. Because some people, like if you think of introverts, extroverts, or what somebody might perceive or what somebody might want, they might not want the thing that you want. They want a different thing. So it's almost asking. I do this I've done this with a lot of our clients, where I just ask them, how can we win with you? How can we make sure this is successful? What do we have to make sure we do? Because you don't always know.
This is really good reminder for me because I struggle with this. I assume people are like me. I'm a very extra kind of guy. And I just and if I'm not getting like good vibes from people, I'll just more. You're more, right? You're more. Like you will like me, you know? Yeah. And then they're even more like, oh my God, get away. And I'm like, no, come back.
I will say it's tough because if you pull back too much, then you're inauthentic. And you want to be yourself almost to a fault, almost, because then the people that want to be around you will be around you, and the people you don't want around you won't be around you anyways. So it's like it's walking a tightrope, and how you do that.
Yep, for sure. Phil says underrated. Yeah. Yeah, I love this, and thank you for teaching me this. People are digging it for sure. All right, you're up. Hey, 3 points. You're up. Let's go. Number 4, overrated, underrated, Minneapolis.
Oh, I don't know. Minneapolis. I'm gonna say is underrated.
Defend yourself.
I'm just gonna stop there. We have the Vikings.
You're just gonna leave it.
Minneapolis is incredible. So it's really interesting because I have a lot of friends that are transplants from other parts of the country, and they love Minneapolis. Very family friendly, great schools. I think we have more lakeshore. It's not the right term. We have more waterfront than like all of Hawaii because we have so many lakes.
Oh wow.
One of the best airports. We got those orange ducks or whatever, the yellow ducks.
I like how Minneapolis is trying to throw shade at Hawaii right now. Like,
yeah, that's right.
Hawaii ain't got no waterfront like us out here. Wow, that is courageous.
That is a little courageous. I didn't realize what I was doing there. I almost want to take it back.
But you just leaned right into it. Don't take it back. Don't backpedal. This is great. Dana's saying underrated.
All right.
People are saying underrated. Kelly, nice. I will say underrated because people are not talking about Minneapolis like that. And I do think it's a really cool city. I enjoy going. It's cold. It's cold.
We'll get you here in June. We'll get you on a boat. Cocktail.
I don't know why I end up going to
tequila transfusions.
I used to go to Minneapolis all the time in February, January, like year end, like new year. What are we going to do this year? I'd go visit partners up there. I walked to the Relocation Today office one time, and I parked not particularly far away from the office.
Yeah.
But I remember my overcoat, my wool coat was like flapping around, and everything. And I'm like doing this and like trying to cover my face with it. And like, just like a cutting, biting wind. I'm just like, just got beat up.
The wind's brutal if it's cold. That's like the worst part about living here. Cold wind.
But the people are so warm.
That's
Yeah, and then the summer, that's the great part about these types of cities, those up north cities. The summers are just glorious. So I take it. I've never been to a Vikings game.
Oh yeah.
I almost went. My friend Zeke Oaks, who I'm sure you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Zeke's great.
Love you, Zeke.
Yep, love Zeke. Shout out to Zeke Oaks. Tag Zeke Oaks in the comments, Samara. Just so he knows we're saying nice things about him. But Zeke was kind enough to invite me to Minneapolis to go to the new was the US Bank, arena or whatever
US
it is,
Bank
I think.
Stadium.
Yep, and it was new back then. So this is like 2016, 2017, something like that, right? And the Cowboys were playing the Vikings. Y'all had Stephon Diggs back then, I think. I think we were still playing. I think we had Romo still. I'm not sure. Okay. Anyway, so we went, but we didn't have tickets. We didn't buy tickets in advance. We were like, oh, we're just going to scalp some tickets.
Yeah.
And the arena was like a year old. It might have been the second season or something. It was still very new.
Yeah.
And so people were just super jazzed about it, and y'all had a pretty solid team.
Where'd you watch the game?
So we couldn't get in. So we waited till like kickoff, and then after kickoff, and the tickets were like $400, which pre-COVID was a lot of money. And we ended up at this Mexican restaurant across the street, and I got a picture of me because my Cowboys were triumphant. I got a picture of myself wearing 3 hats. I had a Cowboys hat, a Cowboy Santa hat, and then a sombrero on top.
Love it.
With a in the middle of a Mexican restaurant full of Vikings fans. It was
just
it was
a bunch
quite
of tears.
Yeah, it was quite epic, But y'all were nice. Y'all were very kind. I love that about the Up North fans. Yeah, shout them out. Plus the Juicy Lucy. I don't even know what that is. It's a family show, Robert. All right. What are we doing here? All right. Last one. You got 4. You're on a heater right now. Don't talk to him. He's pitching a no-no. Let's go. The 5th one up. Overrated, underrated.
Oh,
ice
it's
fishing.
Underrated, baby. It's underrated.
What is the trick?
We talked about it the whole time. It's underrated. It's incredible.
Yeah, I got to check it out. It looks like a blast.
We'll get you up around. We'll have to do it like a do it right trip, because there's not every lake is built the same. Each lake's gonna have different fish, different sizes of fish. It's got to be the right time of year, the right spot. It's like hunting. Or like fishing, you try to find them and catch them.
It's like fishing. Yeah,
it's funny. Like fishing. But it's incredible. Yeah, it's underrated.
I want to do a Love Relo from the ice fishing event at Merck.
Let's do it.
That would be sick. Is there Wi-Fi out there?
Oh yeah, there's Wi-Fi. There's hotspot.
Okay.
I'm sure everyone's got those 5G mobile hotspots. Our guide just lives in one of the houses. Yeah. So that's his office. I bet he has a hotspot.
Yeah, maybe yeah. Okay, cool. Very cool. This is you went perfect 5 for 5. This is great. Richard Rudeen, perfect game out here. This is awesome. Get in the comments. Let us know where you think he had it wrong. Phil says underrated. Yeah, we're getting a lot of support here. This is great. Richard, this has been a blast. It's a lot of fun. You want to leave us maybe with just a final thought before we sign off?
Get out there and network. Ben, thanks for reaching out. Appreciate it. It's always good to spend time with you. This was a lot of fun. Thanks to all that tuned in. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Wouldn't have a show without you. Hit that applause button. Give yourself a round of applause. Also, give Richard some love out here. Thanks to everyone that tuned in today. It was great. The comments were jamming. And, Richard, we got to do this again in person.
Yeah, let's do it. And if you see Ben Heller, ask him when he got in.
I'm going to call him right now. Take care, everybody. See you next week.
Guys. Take care.